So I want to raise a question that touches on something that you all just spoke about.
Just say your name and where you come from.
You want me to? He's going to get mad at me, Alan. Okay. My name is Tova Hametz. I work with next generation philanthropy, cultivating the next generation of Jewish philanthropists. And my question is, I agree that $100 is just as important as $1,000 when it comes to supporting organizations, and I agree that it's fundamental to their association as part of a community. The question is, within the context of organizational life, where are your organizations, where in the Jewish nonprofit world are we creating a transition for young people and young philanthropists to really take leadership roles at the stage in which they have the most energy, the most insight, the most strength, and when they're at the beginning, let's say, of their journey to becoming mega philanthropists, but they only have $100, or they're at the beginning of a professional career. I'm not Alan Hoffman. I'm never going to be Alan Hoffman, but at some point, they need to learn from each of you and what you bring to the table and the experiences that you have in order to be cultivated to really bring our peers into the Jewish communal life and really grow into the philanthropists that the next generation needs.
Thank you. The next question.
Hi, how are you? I'm Rachel Chasky. I'm a philanthropic consultant from New York. And my question is, and Mr. Lawrence, Dr. Lawrence, you could probably speak to this. We look at the philanthropic world from a capital market standpoint, and my question is the Jewish community being responsible in the organizations that we're funding? And is there a duplication in the organizations, and could we be more efficient and create the organizations necessary for the next generation?
Thank you. Two more questions I see, and then we...
My name is Edgar. I'm from Brazil, from Querem South São Paulo campaign. My question is, Jewish Agency maybe is the most innovative organization for the State of Israel, and one who comes here for 2 or 3 days can have an idea of what is the impact, both in Israel and outside of Israel. My question is, are you thinking and considering rebranding the Jewish Agency? Because the way we perceive when one doesn't come here is very, very different from what one has when we actually come to Israel. So how and what is the effort you're making, number one, to rebrand, and number two, in the case of the Jewish Agency, the funding is made from Keren Hayesod. So if you think that the distance between the Jewish Agency and the actual donors from different campaigns maybe is not a challenge or an obstacle to increase this transparency and illustrate the work of the Jewish Agency.
Thank you, Edgar. Next question.
Thank you, Mudi. My name is Ben. I'm from St Kilda, Eastern Australia, and we're all competing for the fundraising dollar. And unfortunately, in Australia and around the world, not all Jews live comfortably. And they say, there's a saying, charity begins at home. But when we're collecting money for Israel and projects in Israel, how can we justify collecting money for those charities when there's communities at home that need help? And people often, when I canvass, people often say that to me, oh, I'm giving to the local shul, to the local school, etc. How can we counter that argument?
I see. That's the last. The next question is the last one. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sam Bodenheimer, an entertainment entrepreneur from New York. My question was motivated by Alan's reference to, I think, Project 10, which is launching soon. My question is, what styles of, through social media or through other affiliate relationships, what styles of outreach are you currently employing to engage young professionals who you hope to obtain or to attain?
Toda, thank you very much. Ellen, I suggest you will be the last one to answer, even though most of the questions were directed to you. And Ruben, please, we have around 15 minutes altogether, so try to share the time in an effective way.
Okay. I will try to concentrate on the questions that were related to the engagements of the younger generations. And I must say that I'm sad to say that among the younger generation, we are talking about everything below 60. If it goes to philanthropy, and especially concerning the organizations that we are talking about here. And one point that wasn't touched in the engagement of this is the structure of these organizations. These organizations, and it counts for all the organizations that were mentioned here, including university, etc., is that they have a structure of governance that a new generation doesn't have the possibility to do for different reasons, or doesn't want to do it. You know, it's not only a timing issue, but also the engagement in different things. And I only want to make one point that you maybe didn't think of in that perspective, because I think that you maybe thought yourself of the other issues concerning this perspective, and that's the change in family life. If I compare myself with my parents, and although my father was somebody that really did a lot in the house, there was a clear distinction in what was his responsibilities and my mother's. If I look here, and my wife is in the audience, so she will agree with me fully, is we try to do it in a even way. You know, we both try to work, and we both try to do communal work. And in that perspective, I cannot dedicate my time in coming here 3 times a year for Karen Heisot and the Jewish Agency, and maybe do something else. So if we are not able to break down that structure, we were never able to bring in the new generation or engage the new generation in any way other than giving some money, and that's not engagement.
Thank you, Ruben. Professor Lawrence?
Well, I, for one, am delighted to hear that being under 60 counts in the younger generation. That may be the high point of my day, actually, to hear you say that. When you spend most of your time with people between 18 and 22 years old, no one accuses you of being in the younger generation, I assure you. Let me, speaking of 18 to 22-year-olds, let me focus on several of the questions from the point of view of the university world, both in terms of training and in terms of philanthropy. First of all, in terms of how do we train the next generation, there is an academic component to this. And when people ask what is the specific Jewish connection of Brandeis, which is both a non-sectarian university but a university with a very close Jewish connection, we have what I would think of as the top institution for training young Jewish professionals for Jewish communal life, and the Hornstein program has been for decades. So it's an academic discipline as well, and it needn't be the unique province of Brandeis, and other institutions might take this on as well. We also have an Institute of Philanthropy where we actually are training students, both who are going to make it their life's work, but also those for whom it will be part of what they do. So there's an academic component to the training. In terms of getting young people involved, I think we have found that starting immediately while they're undergraduates with a sense of responsibility, and this actually goes back to the point about $100 is worth as much as 100,000 in some cases, because if we're talking about young donors, we know that those who've made a first gift to the university within their first 5 years out are the ones who are most likely to be the ones making major gifts decades down the road. Now, we don't know which ones are going to be able to make the gifts decades down the road. Therefore, the smartest thing to do is to get as many involved as possible and spread your net. As one example, I'm proud to tell you that the senior class gift this past May of the graduates of our university, and I don't think I need to tell anybody the world that our graduates are going out into with debt, with uncertainty, with concern about their employment. 74%, nearly 3/4 of the students in that class made some contribution to the senior class gift. Now, part of this is the openness of talking to them about it and giving them a sense that this is a responsibility right from the beginning, not 25 years after they graduate, but literally at the time that they're still in school. On the question of is there duplication of effort among organizations, I assume that was a rhetorical question, because the answer is absolutely there is duplication of efforts, and I think we need to think seriously of ways of doing that, of addressing that. This may be one place where the economic circumstances will force a kind of discipline on all of us. Again, I will just give you a very quick answer from the educational world. There is a kind of discussion going on among universities and across universities at a whole different level from what has ever happened about not only things like sharing courses and sharing faculty members, but also on the more prosaic level, sharing insurance policies and procurement policies. Anyone who's ever served on a board of trustees of a university shows up the first day and shakes his or her head and says, why does every one of you think that you have to do everything by yourself, study every subject, and do all of the aspects of the organizational life by yourself? It makes no sense. So to a certain extent, I think economic circumstances have forced this conversation and will in a very helpful way.
Thank you. Mark, please.
I don't want to repeat comments on issues that have already been covered by those who've come before me, and at least in relation to one of the issues that I'm sure that Alan will cover. I just want to deal with one issue. The young man from Australia, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, I couldn't see you. We are blinded by these lights shining into our faces for some strange reason. But it was a very interesting question because, you know, charity begins at home. And
you made the lights go lower.
Oh, you're right.
Keep on talking, Mark.
A little bit, not quite enough, but it's an improvement.
Can you do that with the stock market too, or just with
So
they can go higher, not lower.
But that raises a very interesting issue. First of all, you've got to get to both. I mean, you've got to support your local Jewish community, and you've got to support the State of Israel. Why the State of Israel? Look, we have to ask ourselves, I ask myself, and there's a clear answer, where would we be today if there were no State of Israel? Would I be able to live the life I live with my children and my grandchildren and prosper the way we do in Australia today? Or you in Canada or elsewhere in the world? What would be the condition of the Jewish people? What would there be to serve as a guarantee that, you know, what happened over 60 years ago is not going to happen again? Where would it all be? What enables us all to walk down the streets and hold our heads high and say what we have to say without fear? The State of Israel. So the answer is... So when you're asked to give to the State of Israel, it's a bit like when the taxman comes collecting from you. You can't say, well, look, I've got a better use for the funds. I'm not going to have to pay you. This is a tax, and it's a tax for the benefit of us as a Jewish community, as world Jewry, in our partnership with the State of Israel. I don't have any problem selling that.
Thank you very much, Mark. Marta?
Well, I would like to answer the question if we cultivate, and I said yes, by all means, very much so. And I won't repeat the last part that Mark so brilliantly expressed, because that's what we all think. And then I will give you our prescription for the youngsters, both men and women. We have like a guide that we have to follow. And it says, first, we have to know the community. Second, we're always searching, looking with open eyes for a youngster considered a leader. And then we search for a youngster that is a leader with money. And then, yes, both. And then we engage them both. And then we try this every 3 months, both with men and women and with people from Dorem Shech. Then they should come to Israel for 4 or 5 days to a course. Then they should meet politicians, military people, army people, visit settlements, places, and see our programs and our projects. Then go back and then give them the strength and give them the possibility to create their own activities. They're successful, and in Mexico, people like to rub shoulders with success, winners with winners. So then they join this winner, and they start building together. And the approach is build together, build tomorrow, build today, and be partners. And then we tell them, this is your time now. It is your time to build. And we're doing this with women and with men, very young and not so young. And it has been working. That on what has to do with this. And duplicating, well, the effort is duplicated, but thanks God, we have so many choices and so many people that want to choose where their money goes to. Nonetheless, we are trying to be careful because in Mexico, because of the economic problems, people have to choose their best choices. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta.
Bring you to Australia.
Ellen?
I think, Moody, that one of the more encouraging things to me from this session is that all 5 people who asked these latest set of questions, all people who are passionately interested in philanthropy, all seem to me at least to be people under the age of 40. And I think that this is already itself a huge...
I think it's also encouraging that you judged by their voice, because we couldn't see.
I can see. So I want to say to Tova, transition to young philanthropists, we're not doing a good enough job. for sure. You're absolutely right. The fact that we have over 300,000 graduates of Birthright and over close to 50,000 graduates of Masa, and we have not yet found the mechanism to be able to bring these people who in the last decade have had such a powerful transformative experience of Israel in a much more systematic way into the world of philanthropy is, in my opinion, one of the great challenges, and really is the big question: who's going to sit in this auditorium in 15 to 20 years? And I think you're absolutely right, and I think this is something every organization is struggling with. Universities have a great leg up because they have alumni, and we have to think what we're going to do with our own alumni and how to turn people who are alumni into funders. Rachel, duplication. Jonathan Sana, a great scholar of Brandeis University, wrote an essay a few years ago that was called The Great Explosion or something like that. And he wrote about the fact that at the turn of the 19th century, all the major institutions of Jewish life as we know them, sometime between 1890 until about 1912, the major institutions, federations, the JDC, the Jewish Agency, World Zionist Organization, were all invented because of the forces that brought them about at that time. And the question which he as a historian, The Great Awakening it was called, the essay, and what he left as a historian was the question hanging in the air. Given the issues that are happening in our times, do we need all these same institutions? And I believe that there is duplication, and I believe that it is time for a big bang in Jewish life. And I could imagine some of the international, major Jewish international organizations merging. I'm not going to talk too much more about that, but I think that this is an important question. Edgar, Sao Paulo, rebranding. First of all, the Jewish Agency certainly has to do a better job of branding itself and rebranding itself. And I said to Yoki, who's left, but who I met with this morning, who's the chairman of the trustees of Keren HaYesod, maybe one of the things that we need to be thinking about is in a place like Sao Paulo, for example, where the local Keren HaYesod needs to become the board of the Jewish Agency's activities locally, so that every donor actually understands what the Jewish Agency is doing locally, and there's not some kind of a distance between that. And this is something that I look forward to thinking about into the future. Question that came from Australia. I would hate to think that somebody who is engaged in Jewish philanthropy does not think about making a philanthropic gift to Jewish institutions in his community at the same time as he makes a commitment to Israel.
Alan, you have 1 more minute. Please.
And I believe that one deals with one's local community, then one deals with one's people. And finally, Sam, social media. I think the social media are part of the answer to all of these questions, and I think that it's crazy that we, as a Jewish people, are a network people. That's what we are, we're a network. And we're at the heart of all the work of the internet. But the one thing we haven't done is to create a brilliant job for ourselves on how to network ourselves, and I think that's work that lies ahead in the next few years.
Thank you very much, Ellen. Thank you very much, everybody. Just before we conclude, I would like to thank you all and you for coming here. I believe we had a very interesting afternoon. Problems are still there, but also the challenges. Thank you very much.